you. Oh my gosh, so it's so fun to see everybody already speaking with one another. We're going to come back to this slide. But to keep us on track, I'm going to get started. We have a tight agenda today. And the most important speakers are Stephanie Biebel, the math lead, and her counterpart, Kristen, who's not, okay. Stephanie's the math lead for the Northeast Service Cooperative, and she's going to guide us in that area. And then Nikki Ojanin in the back corner is going to lead us in understanding how we can be the best tutors possible for students in reading. So.
And I'm Jeff Lindmark, I'm the program director. I kind of carry us, just so you know. Letting Teresa do a few things today, but otherwise, let me know if you have questions. That was completely sarcastic. That's my favorite font, so.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I should have introduced you, but you took over quite well. You don't even need a name tag.
Bring me on my show.
Right. So I just want to talk about a couple of seemingly unimportant but useful nuggets of information right off the top. The restrooms are out this door and to the right. You'll find those. And then I'd just like to point out the folder that you have. So far, you know, it looked to me like you were focusing on this sheet with the welcome and the welcome activity. But if you take a look inside, on the right-hand side, you'll see some documents. You'll see our agenda for the day. So you, on the right side are the documents and handouts for today. And there's a piece of blank white paper at the back if you want to take notes. I'd also like to point out the updated tutor manual for this year, and there are blank pages at the back if you'd like to take notes. We've added information in both the reading and math areas, and most of that has come from working closely with Steph and Nikki as specialists. The other thing, in the past, the tutor book has included a short section of learner expectations in reading and math, K6. I'm not exact, because I've only been doing this job for a year and a half, and I spoke with the previous executive director and tried to determine where those learner expectations came from that were in the books leading up to this point. And it's rather nebulous, and I am not comfortable just throwing things out there that I'm not sure of the validity. But I'm very comfortable sharing with you the Minnesota Department of Education's standards for math and reading. And within each standard are specific learning expectations or benchmarks, as they're called. And so this is not an easy read. It is not, if you're not tutoring in 6th grade, don't look at 6th grade. Stick to where you're tutoring, because that's enough content for you to try to remember. But I think if you're a tutor in math in 3rd grade, you should definitely get to know these learner expectations. I think it will help you as you're making decisions about the direction you take with your students as you're tutoring. Then at the very back on the right-hand side is our annual report. And this summarizes the work that we did last year. So that's a little bit about the folder you're looking at. I'm going to try to share this on part too much. And we may have a couple other people join us, but we may not. So I'm just so glad that we're here together today. A year ago at this time, we had one person indicate an interest in coming together for this particular training. Therefore, it didn't happen in person. Over the course of the year, we were getting feedback from our tutors saying, I feel isolated and that I'd like to know people organization. I'd like to know the tutors in my building. I'd like to know the tutors in the whole organization. And so as a result of that feedback, we're trying really hard to bring our group together in person as often as possible. And that's one of the big reasons we're doing this today. And I thank you so much for your willingness to spend 3 hours with us this morning in person. What we're also recording this presentation. You're not on camera. We're recording this. It's a virtual recording. It's in real time. So we have a couple people joining us virtually. And if they have comments or questions, they're going to communicate to Jeff that they have something to say. And then beyond that, for all the tutors who aren't here in person or joining us virtually, this is recorded for people to watch on their own schedule moving forward. And as we have tutors join us later in the year, we'll have this to share.
It's also something you refer back to through the year if there's something that you want to revisit.
Absolutely. So this was the welcome screen when you walked in and the welcome activity on your table. Is there anybody who's comfortable sharing any of these either photos or just verbal descriptions on any of something that indicates how you find joy, how you feel connected to others, and why tutoring matters to you? Is anybody comfortable sharing a photo or talking about that? Or with the people you spoke with, maybe sharing one another's. So you can speak for somebody else if they're comfortable with that. But I'd love to get some feedback if anybody's brave enough to do that. Thank you, Laura. We have Laura Niles. She tutors out of Tower, Sudan.
So, I don't know how to do this, but.
Well, we won't put it on the screen.
Oh, okay.
I can run it around.
I'll just pop it up. I just texted it to myself so I can see. So the first one was find a photo on your phone that brings you joy. And one of my cohorts is your Karen, so she probably knows about this. Yeah. So I live on Lake Vermilion, so I love paddleboarding with my dog. So that was one. The next one was find a photo on your phone that makes you feel connected to others. And again, this is from Tower. We work together as a group to help build 4 new pickleball courts. I work from home, so I have very little opportunity to connect with people. And everybody who comes here has like, they kind of help me connect to the community, and it's good exercise. It's like good like a million different ways, and it's free, so that's all good. The other thing was why it matters, and this is probably not the best picture. They don't know I'm sharing this, so these are my 2 boys. Who older now, they're in college and stuff, but I'm obsessed with reading. I love reading to as a kid, and going there kind of helps me, they're at the house now, but I love sharing that love with the kids. And sometimes I get a little sad because I see that there's that big need.
Yes.
And that they don't have, that somebody's obsessed in their house with reading. But so even if it's just an hour, I only go twice a week, it I think feeds me more than the kids. I really enjoy it.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. And today, our first objective is to build community with our group. And Laura just helped us do that. And the conversations that you had with each other helped start building that community among our tutoring team. And as we were saying, Laura, building community, we all feel that need to be connected, and it looks different for each of us. But we've all decided that this is one way we're going to connect with others. We're going to connect with our team. We're going to connect with our communities to let them know the good work that's happening in the schools and encourage them to consider volunteering with our organization. And you're going to connect with the teachers and become familiar with what their needs are as they see them for their students. And most importantly, you're going to connect with the students. Our second objective for the day is to learn how to best support students in reading. And I introduced Nikki O'Janin. She's going to be speaking soon to help us learn a little bit about being the best tutor we can be in the content area of reading. And then Stephanie Beeble will do the same for us in math a little later. And if you look at your agenda, you can kind of see the timelines that we have sketched out for ourselves. So this is our mission statement. And how I think of this mission statement is that none of it would work. The only reason we are successful in this mission throughout our 9 schools is because of the relationships that we connect, that we create, again, with all those folks that I just shared. But if we don't have the relationships with our students, none of these other things can happen. And so that's something you're going to hear throughout today as other speakers share their thoughts. And it's something that we've talked about in the past, and last year's training video spoke to that as well. And I know you all know it. The relationships. We care about our students. We want to support their well-being. Why? Well, because we care about them and want to support their well-being. But in doing that, a strong relationship with students can improve student learning. I'm going to back up because there are some great pictures of you guys working with kids using those relationships that you've developed. Our schools need us, and Laura, you just brought this up. There's great need in these 9 schools. They're all under-resourced for 2 reasons. One, they're all rurally located. The Minnesota State Education Fund is divided in such a way that rural schools in the whole state get 20% of, well, actually 19% of that funding. So right off the bat, these schools are under-resourced because of their geographic location. So that's a problem. That's one reason that we make a big difference and are truly needed. We are a free service to these kids and their families, to the teachers in the schools. Many of these families, that the students that you're working with, come from low-income families. And the way that we measure that in schools is by the percentage of students on free and reduced lunch. And every single one of these 9 schools has a higher percentage of students receiving free or reduced lunch than the state of Minnesota and even the county of St. Louis County. So these schools, again, are under-resourced for at least these 2 reasons. Another concerning piece of why our kids need us is that these schools are underachieving at varying rates. Most of these schools, let me just say this first. The comprehensive exams that Minnesota Department of Education requires of students, when we take the averages for the whole state for all the grade levels tested and all the content areas tested, the level of proficiency is astonishingly low, sadly low. In math, it's 50%, give or take a percentage. In reading, it's 46%. In science, 39% of the students are reaching proficiency in the science standards. That's not great news. What's worse is that most of these schools are lower than both the state average and even, again, the county average, which I don't have those numbers just off the top of my head. So our schools need us for these easily explainable reasons. In the annual report at the very back of the left side of your folder, I have shared the impact that we made last year. We don't need to dwell on this side. I'm ready to introduce Nikki, but this is astonishing. The service that the difference we made last year. And this is all based on surveys that we distributed in January at the end of first semester, and then again in May at the end of second semester. And this is what we're finding. I don't expect that you can see this. I just want you to know that our service last year was astonishingly effective and helpful, meaningful, and important for us to continue. And you can find the whole annual report is in the back of your folder, and I encourage you to take a look at it. So now we're going to move on to our second objective, which is to learn how to be the best tutors possible in the content area of reading. And for that, Nikki Ojanin is going to come speak.